Bear down, Chicago Bears. We're going to talk today. I told you guys I wouldn't do it, but I lied. We're going to talk about Justin Fields. We're going to talk about, did the Bears fail Justin Fields? The answer to that, yeah, they absolutely failed Justin Fields. However, Justin Fields also failed the Chicago Bears in many different ways by not coming through when they needed him to come through to show that he was that man to keep when faced with the opportunity to take the number one selection. And then we're going to spring from that, and we're going to talk about why Caleb Williams is most probably going to one-up Justin Fields and probably be a better overall prospect in the quarterback position than Justin Fields. It doesn't mean that Justin Fields is not going to have a successful career in Pittsburgh or wherever he ends up, but it is going to mean that there is some real possibility here that Caleb Williams is every bit as good as advertised. There are a lot of people out here that don't like the fact that Caleb Williams painted his nails. And Caleb Williams doesn't care. In fact, he does that to honor his mother, who was a nail technician. Very simple life. Didn't have a lot of money growing up. That's what she did, and he honors her in that way. The fact that he really doesn't care what everybody thinks. Here's the thing. If you dress in the sari or whatever garb that he dressed in, that everybody called a dress, and then you paint your fingernails, and then you have a pink phone case when everybody says, oh, no, you should use manly colors and stuff like that, that is the exact testament to the type of leadership, because he doesn't care what you think. He cares what he thinks and what he does. And now go back to Oklahoma, find somebody at Oklahoma who didn't like him and didn't like playing alongside him. Go to USC and go find somebody who didn't like him and didn't like to play next to him. Go find somebody who doesn't like the man that Caleb Williams is, that knows him. And you won't find very many. Now, the same can also be said for Justin Fields, and we'll get into that as we go along here. But first of all, I just wanted to say good morning to everybody. I hope you're having a good day. This is going to be an interesting sort of take here. I got a lot of data. I got a lot of information. I don't know how that's going to translate, whether you guys are going to like this or not. I mean, if you do like it, make sure you hit the like button on the way in. We're going to make our way through this whole process. It should be fairly simple. However, we've gone over a lot of this data before. We know the ins and outs of what a lot of these people are doing. And by the way, there was somebody who requested something that I thought, you know what, maybe I will take a shot at it. I assume that they must follow me in my other business, which is cryptocurrency. And if they do, then this one's for you. We'll be back in just 1 second, and we'll kick this off.
It's your boy Bleeves. Everybody listen up. Let's get it. I'm trying to put money in your pocket. That crypto wallet. That bing bada bing ching ching big profit. Even when the market's sideways, I'm looking for ways to get paid. I'm checking my coins around breakfast, then again around bedtime. Bet this, it's not financial advice, but I'm always right. 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 I'm always right.
All right, guys, now we can kick it off. That was the intro song for my other channel. A friend of mine made that for me a few years ago. But we're going to lead this off with the biggest and most important part is, this is the question: how the Bears failed Justin Fields. Now, it should be known, honestly, that even Ryan Poles himself has made it known that he feels that the Bears in some way failed Justin Fields. And what did that look like? Well, it looked like this. And when Fields was drafted, he was drafted into a lame duck situation. Lame duck situation was Matt Nagy on his final year. He was under the gun, and his offensive coordinator was Bill Lazor. He came into an offense that was not set for him, not set for success. they had not done a fantastic job, Ryan Pace or him, of building this team, getting the pieces into place to make sure that this team was ready to win, was functional. As a matter of fact, this is what the history looked like right here. You had Bill Lazor 20 and 21, and then you had Luke Getsy come in right after that. So you had multiple offensive coordinators. So at this point, going into 2024 with Shane Waldron, Justin Fields would have been on his third offensive coordinator in 4 years. Very difficult to create the important thing that the Chicago Bears have tried to preach, which is continuity. Now, some of you might think that continuity applies or should apply to Justin Fields. And in fact, there was a lot of discussion. Ryan Poles even said, there's a lot of people in the building in Hallis Hall that still want Justin Fields to be here or still wanted Justin Fields to be here. There's plenty of people who really like Justin Fields and thought that at some point, he was going to put it all together and that he was going to be the player that we all hoped we had gotten when he was first drafted. So, and in fact, I will point out that at one point, as I was going through college data and college statistics, Justin Fields was one of the most accurate one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football history when it came to throwing the ball long. He was the most accurate in the last 25 years. So to get a testament to what the coaching staff did or failed to do with Justin Fields, consider, if you will, that during the course of Justin's college football career, he was one of the more accurate passers in the history of college football, and he was the most accurate deep ball passer in college football history, statistically. So, and some of that, by the way, maybe that's receivers. Maybe that's having great receivers around you, stuff like that. It's something that he didn't have in Chicago. And now we're probably kind of getting to Ryan Poles' statement when Justin Fields had been traded as to why some of this stuff was an enormous problem. So stick with me on this because it's very, very interesting as you kind of break it down. But Luke Getsy, Bill Lazor, those were the guys. Both of those guys were involved in more prototypical drop back passing schemes that were not really designed or not really made to order, if you will, for a player like Justin Fields, who needed the opportunity and, by the way, needed an offensive line that would give him a little time to get himself together and get situated into the offense and to have the type of receivers around him that would give him that opportunity. In fact, one guy that he did have in his first year, Allen Robinson, I mean, that, he went from a pretty decent guy to, I think, falling off a cliff, and still to this day has not recovered or recaptured any of that glory, still sits out there as an unrestricted free agent, still doesn't have a job, and had gone from a really good, really great pickup for the Chicago Bears to less than a supreme player in a very short period of time. So that is a testament to all of the things that went wrong with Justin Fields over the course of all of this and over the course of the entirety of his 3-year, probably too little, but his 3-year career with the Chicago Bears. So now we do have an article up here, and it says the Chicago Bears remain under the NFL spotlight with the number 1 pick in the draft. And the discussion is this, that the league executive, came out and just said, really, the Chicago Bears failed Justin Fields. High expectations surrounded the Ohio State product when the Bears selected him with the first-round pick in the 2021 draft, but he didn't exactly come into an ideal situation. The franchise fired head coach Matt Nagy and general manager Ryan Pace in his first year, and had Bill Lazor, and his second year was largely defined by new general manager Ryan Poles tearing down the roster in order to make a rebuild. The offensive line was a significant concern during the first 2 seasons, and there was a glaring lack of game-changing weapons on the offense. He surely built some bad habits when he had to run from pressure so much, although he still accounted for 1,143 yards on the ground in his second season. To the Bears' credit, they took a turn in 2023. They added wide receiver DJ Moore and drafted Darnell Wright, tight end Cole Kmet also showed notable improvement, as did offensive lineman Tevin Jenkins as a potential building block. The situation was finally better after Fields and Chicago end up going 5-3 in their final 8 game. Under normal circumstances, it would surely look to continue building on the momentum that the quarterback was settling in the surrounding pieces in place. However, it has the number 1 overall pick, and it has a person in Williams. That just got wild. You guys hear that? That was wild. So anyway, Caleb Williams comes out as the biggest prospect since Andrew Luck, and the most quote unquote shoe in, if you will, since Andrew Luck. And by the way, Jason Ball makes a very important comment here. You were anti Caleb, keep Justin pretty hard there. If I was a blind man, I'd swear I was listening to a completely different person. Well, you're not listening to a completely different person. You're listening to a person who isn't in charge of the team, who has to make a sandwich, even if it's a shit sandwich, and smile while you eat it. I mean, that's the Chicago Bears for you. Here we are. I don't control the Chicago Bears. I don't control who they draft. I don't control who it is that they pick for the team. Like, I don't have that control. If I had that control, maybe something would be different. But what I have to do is figure out, because number one, I'm a Chicago Bears fan before I'm a Justin Fields fan. I do think that Justin Fields gave them the best opportunity to win, and I'm going to go over some statistics. And in fact, I'm going to be having some conversation about the fact that the Bears ended up resetting, or will end up resetting when the draft is completed. And all they've done is extend the opportunity to create a better situation. But, Justin Fields arguably gave them a better chance to win coming into this season. But they're still a playoff team. And I've said this, whether Caleb Williams is the quarterback or Justin Fields is the quarterback, they will be a playoff team no matter what, because this team is built for the playoffs and to get there. There will be some growing pains with Justin Fields, but we have to accept those growing pains as a cost of doing business. If we do better, and if we just miss the playoffs, or if we get into the playoffs and we lose in the first game or something like that, that will still be a mission accomplished for this staff. This is the first year of the quote unquote real turnaround. So to show improvement from 7-10 and creating another dynamic to give us that good feeling. And by the way, I did say the Bears are going to win at least 11 or 12 games. They are going to win. They're going to do well. And those close games that they were missing last year, they're not going to miss this year. So that being said, when they make the playoffs, they lose in the first round, still an accomplishment. Is it the Super Bowl that I would hope for? No. Do I think they would be better with Justin Fields? Yes. But here we are, so let's go on. And yeah, I appreciate that, because I actually am a fan of Justin Fields, and I will continue to be a fan of Justin Fields, even though he's going to be on the team that I'm not rooting for. You know what I mean? So now, what does this look like? Well, why did they fail Justin Fields? It's very simple. They just didn't have the talent around him, and they didn't have the opportunity to build, and they ran out of what Ryan Poles called runway. And that runway is a financial runway. They can have Justin Fields for one more year for $6 million, which is cheaper, by the way, than it would cost for the first round draft pick in Caleb Williams at $9 million. So, but here's the thing, to next year, 2025, if you will, in 2025, Justin Fields is going to be a minimum of 25, more like 27 million, with the salary cap increasing the way that it did. So between 25 and 27 million is what you would end up paying Justin Fields to continue this build process. And that would prohibit your ability to continue to build and add depth to a roster for a team that most probably still needs a little bit more. Well, in fact, it needs a lot more depth. So you ended up missing, and you have the number 1 overall pick. And you missed last year by trading down the number 1 pick and being able to pick up a lot of good talent in that meantime. So here you are with that number 1 pick overall, knowing that it's going to cost you a minimum 6 million, 25 million, and 40 million. So 71 million over the next 3 years to have Justin Fields versus $27 million for Caleb Williams. And if Caleb Williams is near the player that Justin Fields is, and remember, Justin Fields grossly underperformed compared to college. So if Caleb Williams comes out and is near the performer that Justin Fields is, then you've just saved $50 million on payroll. Now, my need for Justin Fields in this lineup right now is just because I want to win right now. But I accept that this team is being built for a longer term. And again, I do think we still end up in the playoffs in this year. So that's really the point to it. Now, according to all of this information that we're getting, of course, Caleb Williams is going to be the number one overall pick. Now, when we measure up these two guys, you're going to come up with this. Justin Fields came in at 6'3", 228 pounds, 9 1/8 inch hands, arms 32 1/4, and his 40-yard dash is 4.45. In Caleb Williams, what you had was 6'1", 214 pounds, hands 9 3/4, a little bit bigger, arms 32, and his 40-yard dash 4.59. And point to the 40-yard dash here, by the way, is that he didn't go into the combine or do anything. And by the way, 4.59 for a quarterback, still not that bad. 4.45 for Justin Fields. I mean, he looked a whole lot better than 4.45 when he was on the field. So let's just say that Justin Fields probably, Caleb Williams probably has some ability, a lot of opportunity here. So let's break it down a little bit further, though. Coming out of Ohio State after the 2020 college football season, Fields wasn't labeled a generational prospect like Caleb Williams, but his stock came with a surefire first-round grade. NFL.com gave Fields a prospect grade of 6.45 on a scale of 1 to 8, which equated to their NFL draft experts believing he would be a good starter in the league within 2 years of being drafted. According to Next Gen Stats in the same scouting report, among quarterbacks in the 2021 draft class, Fields received a 92 production score, 93 athleticism score, and a total score of 89. They gave Fields an overall prospect rating of 92 out of 100 coming out of college. By the way, it should be noted Caleb Williams is number 3. And that makes him, by the way, Justin Fields, higher than Drake May and Jaden Daniels. So if this were not for the first part, if this were not for the fact that we have the number 1 pick, then we would still be riding with Justin Fields. We would be, they would be considering that Justin Fields still grades out as better than any other prospect in the draft, but he doesn't. So here we are. A data study on Pro Football Focus in 2021 even said Fields was the most accurate passer that had ever been tracked up until that point via the completion percentage over expected going back to the 2014 season. So this is the most accurate passer that they had been gauging. In a 22-game span, during his sophomore and junior season, he completed 396 of 579, or 68.4%, for 5,373 yards, 63 touchdowns, and only 9 interceptions through the air. On the ground, he carried the ball 218 times for 867 yards and 15 touchdowns, or 4 yards per carry. On a per-game basis, that comes out to 242 passing yards and 2.9 passing touchdowns, with 40 rushing yards and 1 touchdown per game. So there was a lot going on for Justin Fields, a lot of positives that you could find in Justin Fields going into this. And look, the Bears were enamored by the prospect of having the next Lamar Jackson. We should at least acknowledge that. He was the best available player. It looked like he had that sort of elusiveness, that ability that we saw in Lamar Jackson. And we recognized, by the way, that Lamar Jackson was not a great thrower, but Justin Fields was a great thrower. Now, Justin Fields got thrown into a situation in which he was on a horrible team. And if you remember, guys, in 2018, under Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears made the playoffs before Cody Parkey's double doink got them out before they got to the championship. And that's unfortunate, but the team went way downhill very fast from there. By the time 2021 came around, this was arguably one of the worst teams in football and continued to be the worst team in football in 2022. So, going into this, he was drafted to the worst team. Now, consider this. The Bears have an opportunity at this point to have a decent team. I won't call them the best team or even a top 5 team at this point, but they have a much improved team in all aspects. We'll look at the roster in a few moments, but the point to it all is that you now have this opportunity to drop another quarterback in to this roster position that doesn't have the bad tendencies that were picked up by Justin Fields. That doesn't have all of the problems that Justin Fields had to go through. He doesn't have to work through those issues. He can just come out slinging, if you will. So it was very easy. This was very easy for this team to come out here and choose a new quarterback. It's just simple. It was just simple here. So now, again, Ryan Poles said, we just ran out of runway. We didn't have the opportunity. We didn't have what we needed in order to, make this thing happen. So now, let's talk about this. There was some concerns over a lot of the different pieces that Justin Fields percentage, around 60% in the NFL. He was not schemed very well with Luke Getsy. He was not schemed very well with Bill Lazor. It's something that it has to be Maddie Riflus. It has to be Luke Getsy. And they put him in just a horrible situation when they drafted him. But look, a lot of people have been in horrible situations and were able to overcome that. So this is not about Justin Fields in this context. They did fail Justin Fields because Maddie Riflus and Luke Getsy were not ready to build around him. So, that puts you in that horrible situation, right? Now, we have to consider this. As we grade today, if we say Pro Football Focus graded Justin Fields as a 92 out of 100 prospect, Caleb Williams is a better prospect than Justin Fields was, and he's the best rated quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. The other thing is, when you reset the quarterback contract, the Bears are able to build around the quarterback before they have to make a decision. And look, if it doesn't work out with Caleb Williams, then you just move on. You have no problem here. Okay. Here's the point. The point is you have to be able to build a roster in which somebody can compete. And Caleb Williams, by the way, is going to walk into the best situation ever in terms of being a number 1 overall draft pick with a supporting cast. Now consider this, if you will. Caleb Williams is walking into DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett as his 4 go-to guys, with DeAndre Swift as the 5th guy, who had I think he had 49 receptions out of the backfield or 51 receptions out of the backfield last year. This is a dynamic passing offense that was just given to the first overall draft pick. And this offensive line, while it did struggle at times during the last season, a lot of that struggle was Larry Borum. A lot of that struggle was the substitutes. If we have a lot of that struggle was the center position. Lucas Patrick, Dan Feeney, Cody Whitehair in very limited engagement. But when you look at it overall, Coleman Shelton represents a much better option, a much more viable option. And Braxton Jones, while he was in the game, showed steady improvement through the end of the year and at least gave Justin Fields an opportunity to make throws. The fact is, Justin Fields had developed enough bad habits that he had to work himself out of it, and Luke Getsy wasn't doing him any favors by creating these passing schemes that were just not working for this team, and there were not enough options. Darnell Mooney is not an option. Darnell Mooney it might end up being a great slot receiver or something somewhere, sometime. I think he's still going to have a successful career. He made $13 million a year for the next 3 years. So there's something good and positive about him still. We just couldn't find it here in Chicago. He had a great year once and then just kind of fell apart from there. So, there were bad circumstances. There were difficult situations, and here we are. So, in a lot of different ways. There is here's the other part. This is going to be the bad part, right? The Bears are not going to be as competitive. And you can't get the same group of people to build around. You're using the number one prospect right now to grab a quarterback instead of instead of taking, trading down. I mean, you get 3 or 4 draft picks in this draft. You can continue to build this team dynamically if you trade down from that number 1 pick. But look, nobody's going to forgive you if Caleb Williams is as good as advertised. And if Caleb Williams is half as good as he's advertised, and he's going to be every bit the player that Justin Fields was. Not that Justin Fields was not an elite athlete and supremely talented, but what we got out of him was mediocre at best. Okay? We have to at least be able to recognize that. And I think, what is Justin's record? 10-26 over 3 years. I mean, guys, there's no circumstance in which that's good. All right. Last year, he was 5-8. His completion rate was 61.4, I want to say. And he had 2,500 yards passing, 2,562 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I want to say, let me pull this up. Yeah, so last season, Justin Fields, 5-8, 61.4% completion, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Didn't look that great. And when you look at these advanced stats, like, guys, you can't. You've got to at least be able to break this down, and you've got to be able to be honest about this. This right here was destructive to this team. In the fourth quarter, Justin Fields had a 53 QBR, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. In the second half of games, he had 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was mediocre in the second half of games with a 70 rating after being a 100 rated quarterback in the first half. Now, I will tell you until the day, as long as the day is, that much of this is Luke Getsy and his play calling and him not working around the strengths of Justin Fields. Luke Getsy tried to turn Justin Fields into the pocket passer that he always wanted and tried to stop him from running. And, look, it's his team. It's fair enough it's fair enough that, and it is accurate to say that Luke Getsy, and that's what this is the question here. How the Bears failed Justin Fields. And the answer, Luke Getsy. The answer, Matt Eberflus. The answer, not having enough talent around Justin Fields to maximize the talent that Justin had. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers do that? Well, they're on a different clock. They don't hold the number 1 overall pick. They don't have the same situation that the Chicago Bears have. So they don't have to deal with the stress and the problems that Ryan Poles or Matt Eberflus or anybody had to deal with in this context. And look, when you bring in Luke Getsy, you think that he's going to be adaptable and that he's going to create this dynamic offense because you saw it in Green Bay. Well, guess what? We're not Green Bay. That's the unfortunate part. We're not 5 wide receivers deep. And they are. And by the way, when I say that, you can look around for a long period of time. There's only 3 or 4 wide receivers, but you do a lot of 4 wide receivers. That we can't even field 4 wide receivers that people have even heard of at Chicago right now. Well, right now maybe we can. Maybe we can do 3. You know what I mean? And that's just because Tyler Scott is no longer a rookie. You know what I mean? But we still have a weak wide receiver room that has to have a little bit. There's got to be a little bit more to that room than what we have right now. But we do have 4 options because we have Cole Kmet and we have Gerald Everett. So you do have pass options. You do have, you are still in a better place than you were. And DeAndre Swift coming out of the backfield is still a phenomenal receiver when it's all said and done. So, the upgrades were made. It's just this. We can't pay $25 million over maybe he'll get better, maybe he won't. I see the talent in Justin Fields. We all see the talent in Justin Fields, but he was let down by a coaching staff that was incapable of building and crafting an offensive scheme around him to make something better happen than what ended up happening. Now, what ended up happening, however, in this was, and you have to take some ownership. And for all of us, including myself, who says, well, this is the fault of Luke Getsy. This 53 quarterback rating in the fourth quarter, we saw the product on the field. We saw what was happening. Well, here's what I would say to that, because you're right. And by the way, I do want to add, first quarter pass percentage, 74.4% in 13 games. Second quarter, 61.9. And it's just downhill from there. And the point is, it goes way downhill, all the way to 51% in the fourth quarter. And here's the thing. when you're always playing from behind, when your team is giving up a vast amount of points, and they were, when you're giving up all these points, when you're doing all of this quote unquote bad shit, then it does become very difficult for a quarterback who is not as dynamic at throwing the ball when he doesn't have receivers who can make the plays and he doesn't have an offensive line that gives him the time to protect, or he's developed the bad habits because he's been running for his life for the previous 2 years. When you have all these things working against you and you're having to recover from all the situation, then there is pressure. And if your coaching staff doesn't support you in the right way, this is the result. 51% completion ratio, 53 quarterback rating, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But let me also say, that's Justin's gameplay. That is Justin's gameplay. Him playing the plays that were called. Now, were the plays bad? Yes. But if you're talking about a quarterback's job is to go out there and run the play. And if that play doesn't work, whose fault is it? Well, look, we've seen enough overthrows from Justin Fields to know that it is not entirely Luke Getsy. We've seen enough drops from somebody like Robert Tonyan. That Cleveland game, Robert Tonyan should have won that game for us. The end. That was the touchdown, right? And that's the difference between 17-20 and 24-20. That is the difference right there. That's the game winner right there. Robert Tonyan just absolutely whiffs and absolutely drops it. And then we have Velus Jones Jr. drops the pass in the end zone with the opportunity to win. Like, there are plenty of different points where Justin did put it on the dime and we didn't make the play. But that's also a testimony of Velus Jones Jr., not a great wide receiver. Robert Tonyan had one good year, but it didn't, it didn't end up working. You know what I mean? This was just a bad situation. Okay. And Justin Fields did himself no favors by not being better. Okay. And now here's the other part, and I'm going to say this, and I know you're not going to like this at all, but here's the part that matters. When the game's on the line, when it's important, that's when you, the player, that's when you're supposed to excel. With the last 2 minutes of each half, Justin's quarterback rating goes down to 24.8. He got worse. Quarterback rating, 46%. Last 2 minutes of the game. And by the way, this accounts for 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions. And when you're in the fourth quarter and you're within 7 points, his completion percentage, 46.9. His quarterback rating is even worse at 22.3. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So in the fourth quarter, with an opportunity to do anything, then this is what happened. And yes, there were plenty of situations. Tyler Scott dropped, Mooney, multiple touchdown drops. And look, Mooney when you go back and you look at Mooney didn't have any more or less drops than he would normally have, or what an average player has. So when we blame Mooney for the drop, yes, we are, it is important that you make those catches. It's important that Velus makes his catch. It's important that Robert Tonyan makes his catch. It's important that Tyler Scott not drop any passes. But guess what? We didn't drop as many passes as you guys think. You see the drop passes because we didn't pass the ball enough and we didn't air it out nearly enough. Like, that's really what it came down to. So when these happen, you look at it and you're like, wow, like, we really dropped a lot of passes. But if you go look statistically, we didn't drop a lot of passes. We did not drop a lot of passes. There were just some inopportune plays. Okay. They were inopportune plays. And we did not end up being as bad as all that. Now, let's move on, because here's the important part now. And this is the part that you're probably not going to like if you're a Justin Fields fan, but Caleb Williams is going to be in the best situation that a quarterback has been in who's gone first overall in the draft in a very long time. And I'm going to give you some statistics here. And when you look at some of these, you're going to be like, oh man, like, this is going to be unbelievable. And it's going to be like this. Caleb Williams passes for a lot of yards. Shane Waldron's going to want to open this offense up and give this guy an opportunity to make all the throws and make all the plays and do everything. And he's going to have some talent around him. But it should be noted that Trevor Lawrence in his first season, despite going I think they were 3-14 or 2-14 or 3-13 in their first season. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. He ended up having almost 4,000 yards passing, like almost 4,000 yards passing on a horrible team. So now, what does it look like with Caleb Williams on a decent team? And the Bears, it should be noted, are a decent team. Are they incredible? I mean, no, but we're good. We're not a bad team. Okay, that's the important part. So let's talk Caleb Williams here. And first of all, let's talk about the strengths here. Caleb Williams, he's got strong legs and a thick lower body, providing a terrific base for him to throw from every time. Solidly built upper body with long arms generates his arm strength and has a quick release. He's polished, well trained, has good footwork. He's usually in sync with his hips and his eyes as he went through his progressions. He was always looking downfield for the next move, and he's very elusive. He has varying arm angles and quick releases when he throws. He has a typical arm slot and a release point, but would use a sidearm sometimes, and would especially do it to get around somebody in order to throw a screen. He makes full field reads, frequently goes through his progressions until he picks a target. Not only was superior at this when pass rush pressure wasn't on him, but frequently kept his eyes downfield regardless of the play situation. He has savvy eye discipline that helped him freeze safeties enough to keep his intended target open and available. And by the way, one of the problems that you look at when you were talking about Justin Fields is that he stared down his receivers, and that's what led to the interceptions. He looked and he watched too long, and that allowed the safeties to make their moves or the cornerbacks to make their breaks on the ball. And also Justin Fields threw to when the receiver was open and not threw the receiver open way too much. That was one of the problems. This is something entirely different. Caleb Williams throws the person open, and he also uses his eye discipline to look this way when he's throwing this way. He's paying attention, but he's got good head movement, and he makes sure that he's got the safeties seeing his eye direction and paying attention. And he's great at faking people out. Also, he has a talented arm, and he's got a he's got a cannon of an arm. That's a great thing. His accuracy, he was consistent, and that's the important part. Would sometimes have outstanding ball placement even when he was throwing off platform. Knew when to throw the lightning bolt velocity or with touch of an angel to layer in passes over a defender's head. Made some anticipatory throws, but it's much more of a see it first passer. Coaching could absolutely help him master throwing with anticipation. Was able to get the ball to his intended target frequently when he was pressured or not. This includes when he's throwing without proper functional quarterback mechanics, off his back foot while running, falling away from the target with a defender on his face. We have never seen, and guys, it's got to be, we have to say this, right? We have never seen that in a Chicago Bears quarterback, ever. So say what you will about Caleb Williams. Here's the important part. The important part is Caleb Williams sees this field and he makes wild throws with his arm that we have never seen in a quarterback. We've always had quarterbacks with a noodle arm or with an accuracy problem, or they just don't have the velocity of the arm to make those kind of throws. Justin Fields was the first, and he didn't have a very good team around him. So, we just kind of missed out on that. But the point is Caleb Williams has some abilities here that we have not seen here other than Justin Fields, again, on a bad team. Ridiculous playmaker when things broke down. Default when pressure was to clown pass rushers to avoid them or even escaping their grip while keeping his eyes downfield to give himself a shot to make a play. Sometimes it worked out to jaw-dropping perfection. Most of the time it became an incompletion. Rarely was he sacked or intercepted. Who is the most sacked quarterback in the league the last 3 years? Rarely was Caleb Williams sacked or intercepted. Coaches are going to love that. He's a legit gamer who constantly tried to make good things happen, combined with a fearless, panic-free nature with the savvy of knowing to never pull the ball in harm's way, sometimes leading to throwaways instead of being sacked or sacks when he could have put the ball in danger. This guy understands the game and knows what he needs to do. Incredible in the red zone when it mattered most. Dynamic weapon in the RPO. with clear understanding of when to hand it off or when to throw and when to run. Had the added dimension of being an effective rusher, mostly off of RPOs, good straight line speed. Now he will have a problem, by the way. It should be noted that most of his games he runs out of the shotgun, and he's not going to do that in the NFL. You will have some shotgun, but he's going to have to learn how to play under center and do a pretty good job. And he never missed a game because of injury throughout his college career. Justin Fields missed 4 games last year, and was it 12 games in the first season? He missed like 4 games in the first season. This guy's never missed a game. This is the kind of stuff. Remember, Aaron Rodgers never missed games. Always out there throwing. And this is the same kind of thing. Patrick Mahomes, same thing. So now here is where you talk about, here are some problems with Caleb Williams. And these are honest problems, okay? Doesn't have the desired height. He's only 6'1". There's occasion where it felt like he didn't see downfield because he was too short. That could be a problem. But look, this is something to deal with in the NFL. We'll see how they deal with it. I think they'll be fine. I think he'll be fine. But I don't know. And I think that 2 inches between him and Justin Fields, does that make a difference? Yeah, it does. It really does make a difference. So we'll see how he grasps this and how he deals with it. I mean, look, if the guy's got phenomenal eye motion, if he's got all the pieces that are in place, then, maybe this works out and he's okay with it, right? And it works out to his advantage. He had only 48 snaps from under center in 3 years in college. 6 were at the 1 yard line, 4 were spikes to stop the clock, and 16 were kneel down. So just consider here, he had 48 snaps under center, and 23 of those snaps were just bogus, right? He never took the ball. He can probably handle the snap from center, but he's going to have to learn how to do that. They're going to have to work on that on day one. And there are going to be some issues. By the way, look, he's anticipatory, but he also did have a lot of situations in which he just found open guys. But there is an opportunity, and that's because of the air raid offense, because of what he was running. We haven't seen him really be able to do that anticipatory, make that turn, boom. And by the way, one of the reasons, and in my draft, by the way, I actually addressed that because that is a concern. And I did in my draft again today bring in Brendan Rice as that slot receiver, or maybe Keenan Allen becomes a slot receiver, Brendan Rice becomes the Z receiver. One way or another, that's somebody who's familiar, that he's familiar with. That would allow him to get really, really comfortable in this offensive scheme very quickly. You know what I mean? Like, boom. And look, and guys are hating on it. Like, Caleb Williams must prove he's a winner. Absent that, he's a first-round bust. But he's not a first-round bust. I mean, that's the point. Like, why are we talking about this guy? Why are we talking about our player being a bust already? He hasn't even been drafted yet. Like, it's wild to me how – look, we missed on Justin Fields. We missed on Justin Fields. I really would prefer that Justin Fields be here. I'll be honest with you. I would. But, look, we don't control that. And shitting on Caleb Williams, the only thing that accomplishes is making you feel like you've gained some sort of clout for shitting on some guy because you don't like him. I mean, it's wild, right? Caleb's nickname is Pinky. So what? Like, it doesn't, who cares? I don't like, this is how wild you guys are becoming. I don't like Caleb Williams because of color choice. He doesn't wear the right colors for me. Like, you didn't give a shit when Dennis Rodman was wearing a wedding dress and he was marrying himself. Look, there's eccentric people. Maybe Caleb Williams is eccentric. Maybe he's not. It doesn't really matter. Here's what it is. He's your Chicago quarterback, or most likely the Chicago quarterback. It's wild that you guys think that, or you think that there's some kind of reason that because he paints his fingernails, he's not going to throw the ball the right way, or because he has a pink phone that he can't play football. That's stupid, guys. Look, you cannot like him, and we can make fun of him. And look, there's going to be plenty of times where we're going to make fun of him. We're going to make jokes about Caleb Williams when he screws up, and he's going to screw up because he's a rookie. But the opportunity here is like none that we've seen. We haven't seen an opportunity like this in Chicago in, I want to say, 3 years since we drafted a guy to the worst team in the league who could do all the things that Caleb Williams can do, and we turned him into a 3-and-out guy. So, but here's the thing. We have a better team now. All right. We have a better team. This guy's going to be just fine. And by the way, He is looking for those big plays. And one of the problems that you're going to have is, can he check down? This is going to be one of those situational spots where can Caleb Williams check down? Can he just make that? Is he, because he's always looking for that big play, and you're not going to get that in the NFL. So there is a question where it's really, it's really important right here. Electric says, dude, I'm just holding Caleb Williams to the same one loss standard people held Justin Fields. How is that not fair? Electric, Electric, he's 0-0 in the NFL. So you're not holding him to the same standard because he hasn't lost a game. Justin Fields 10-26. 10-26 in the NFL. So when you say that you're doing that in your mind. You're not doing that realistically. And in fact, when you look at Caleb Williams, let's see. Caleb Williams' career stats in college are every bit, I think, as good as, let's see. Let's see. Caleb Williams, USC Trojan quarterback. 23-10. So at the same time that Justin Fields is 10-26, Caleb Williams is 23-10. So get off his back. Or is that the game that we're playing? So he's either 0-0 in the NFL, or he's 23-10 in the same time that Justin Fields only won 10 games. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's it. So he's better based on that. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. As far as his stats go, look, in 2023, he had almost a 70% completion ratio, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, or 35 touchdowns. I mean, the guy is phenomenal. That's the important thing. Now, there are some concerns that you're going to have, and there are some advanced stats that you should probably at least be aware of. Over 3 seasons, he threw 12.1% of his targets to running back, 72.5 to wide receivers, and 9.7 to tight ends. That's probably going to change a lot in this Bears offense because there's Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett, and they're going to be like, feed me, Seymour. And that's by design in the air raid offense of what he was doing. This will be different in the NFL. He had just 3 successful final drive comebacks in college. Of his 24 wins as the team's primary quarterback, 15 were by more than 1 score. Of his 10 losses as a starter, 4 were by 1 score, with 2 failed final drive comeback attempts. Among the Big 5 prospects in this year's draft, Williams was tied for second best in off-target rate, second in yards per attempt and touchdown rate, third in completion rate and rate of passes with 20-plus air yards, and third in interception rate. He also had the lowest average depth of target at 8.5 yards. That really just means these guys are getting open. So remember, average depth of target. He's making shorter throws. That's more NFL ready, by the way. That's more that West Coast offense. And not that we're, but we're using a 2 tight end. And I know we're gonna do what works for him. The 2 metrics that Williams led the Big 5 in involved pass rush pressure. He felt it the most and was the highest sack rate. He was not blitzed the most. In fact, he was blitzed by the second lowest rate. He was also credited with getting pressured on 102 pass attempts. He completed 47% of those attempts with 15% off-target rate, third amongst the Big 5. When pressured and throwing short, Williams had a 39% completion rate, which is mystifying until you consider that Drake May was 31% and Michael Penix was 35%. When Williams wasn't pressured and tried passes of 15-plus air yards, he was top 12 in the nation in completion rate. Overall, Williams was the best in the nation in completion rate on throws of 15-plus air yards with a 17.2% touchdown rate. With decent results in interception rate and off-target throws. He had 4 throws of over 50 yards over the past 2 seasons. That's air yards, by the way. Air yards, not not overall play, including one of 59 to Jordan Addison in 2022 that was overthrown. had another 24-yard pass attempts over the past 2 seasons between 40 and 49 yards. On quick throws, he completes 81% of his throws on quick throws of 8.2 yards per attempt, a 4.5% ADOT of 6.4, touchdown rate, and a 0.5 interception rate. This guy's phenomenal when he's playing the short passing game. And that's the important part in the NFL. You're going to make a few long plays, but look, this guy does a lot. And John Perry, yes, he is 33 fumbles in 31 games. That should be accounted for. But look, 33 fumbles in 31 games is almost Justin Fields level. You know what I mean? Like Justin Fields fumbled it just slightly under that. So we're even on that one. You know what I mean? Justin Fields fumbles the ball a lot. And by the way, sometimes it means how many fumbles did you lose? And I think he only lost 14 of those fumbles. So 19 of them went back to the USC Trojans in that period of time, or went back to either Oklahoma or USC. While his accuracy and ball placement were generally good, he was understandably more off target when throwing deep passes. In the red zone, he completes 67% of his throws with a 25% touchdown rate. Guys, are you listening to that stat? He completed 67% of his throws with a 25.4 touchdown rate on his throws. Now, what was it that Justin Fields was doing? Justin Fields' advanced stats. Let's go one more time and pay attention to that. Red zone. Let's see if we have any red zone comparisons here. Margin, game period. Look, Justin Fields red. All right, Justin Fields red zone stats in 2023. All right, in the red zone, Justin Fields had a 55% completion rate with 11 touchdowns and 1 interception and a quarterback rating of... Oh, it doesn't really give that. It's still not bad. I mean, like 50, but it's 55% in the red zone versus what I tell you that Caleb Williams had? 67% in the red zone. His touchdown rate is 25.45%. Justin Fields' touchdown rate is 11 out of 73, less than 10%. Well, no, I'm sorry, 11%. It was 11%. Sorry. So 25.45 versus 11. This guy scores touchdowns. He doesn't put us in situations for field. And again, you could still have a problem with this, and you can still say that the problem here was Luke Getsy, and that's fair assumption. But still, these are Justin Fields stats, and we're comparing stats to stats. And sometimes there's some overlap between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. So Justin Fields did not do as good a job as Caleb Williams in the red zone. Simple. So there are a lot of things. When it comes to arm strength, accuracy, mobility, coolness in the heat of battle, and even escaping pass rush pressure, this guy, what Caleb Williams most reminds people of is Steve McNair. So we'll see if he lives up to the hype. I think Steve McNair had a pretty decent career. I would prefer that it was more like Patrick Mahomes, but I don't have a problem with Steve McNair. So now let's move on to a couple of things here. So the Bears have a win-loss total of 8.5. So we'll see how they rank up with that. But now let's look at how is this going to work with the offensive line. So at present, right now, this is our offensive line: Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Coleman Shelton, Nate Davis, and Darnell Wright. So Darnell Wright had an excellent rookie season and looks the part in PFF grades. Wright was a below average tackle as a rookie, but he showed excellent ability run blocking, and he held his own against outstanding pass rushers like Max Crosby. Battled through a significant shoulder injury, but played in every game and set himself up to take a leap in year 2 and become one of the better tackles in the league. So we saw a lot of promise out of Darnell Wright, and we have some real opportunity here. And he's signed through August of 2026. And Braxton Jones is quickly becoming the current Bears version of Charles Leno. That may give Bears fans a negative reaction, but it shouldn't. Leno showed both in Chicago and Washington that he was an average offensive tackle. He wasn't going to dominate games, but he was always going to do a solid job holding down the left side of the line. Jones has proven to be very similar. He's a solid blocker, but doesn't have the ability to overpower. He is roughly an average starting tackle in this league, which isn't a hole worth replacing. And I keep saying that that's my point here, that, if we're going to replace this guy, we have to have a tremendous upgrade because Braxton Jones is still a good guy. But if the Bears take the best available player at 9, it may end up being a tackle that would make Braxton Jones expendable in a trade. What may happen with Jones is that Poles will be perfectly happy having Jones play out his contract as the team's left tackle, but won't be interested in paying him what the going price would be for an extension, which is $16 to $19 million per year. And he's going to be the team's left tackle through 2025 and then probably leaves through free agency. Here's where it gets, this is where it gets disgusting for me. Larry Borom is currently set to make $3.2 million this year due to hitting the mark to earn the salary escalation, which increases his fourth year salary to roughly $2 million. Borom is a serviceable swing tackle, but has no real promise to be anything else. The Bears may come to Borom and ask him to take a pay cut down to what his original fourth-year salary would be, or tell him he won't be part of the team this year and he can find a new team. In that situation, if Borom wants to remain on the Bears, he will take a pay cut because his new team will also be signing him to the league minimum. If Borom wants to move on from the Bears because he knows his time is winding down, he may refuse the pay cut and become a free agent. There's no... Now, Borom, the projection for Borom is he's asked to take a pay cut, and he accepts and remains a Bear for one final season. Matt Pryor, he's a new one. Now, we're not talking about him as a starter, but he added this offseason at depth at tackle. He's a veteran swing tackle who turns 30 and has the inside track to beat Borom and become the third offensive tackle. He won't wow anyone with his skills, but he's serviceable. And if Jones or Wright miss any time during the injury, he will be a sub admirably. Prior time was spent in Philadelphia with Ian Cunningham, and he is the reason that Pryor was brought in because Ian Cunningham is on the staff now. Now, he could also earn that tackle position. As a matter of fact, he could earn that Braxton Jones tackle position. Most likely not, but I mean, you never know. Then you have Jake Curran is another player who won't play a major role in the Bears' plans with the offensive line. I spent 3 years in Seattle, but he knows Shane Waldron. He'd be a nice addition to the practice squad, and if Borom doesn't remain on the roster this year, he could be offensive tackle number 4. Nate Davis, this is a big year for him due to personnel issues and a high ankle sprain. He did not have a great season in 2023. Davis enters 2024 under contract for 2 more seasons, but there's very little dead cap in 2025. Davis is playing for his job if he wants to remain a Bear, and I like that. Nate Davis playing for his job makes me feel good because he has a purpose and he has a reason to play, and he's going to be playing for that free agency contract if he can get it. So the projection here is that he's going to improve dramatically in 2023, and then maybe we move on from him at that point. We got Ryan Bates on the roster, so the possibility exists that we can just continue to plug holes there. Tevin Jenkins is a fan favorite of Chicago. He's an outstanding run blocker and is a significantly improved pass protection guy. So the question is going to be his health. He missed 9 games over the last 2 seasons, and he missed 11 as a rookie. So we'll see whether or not he can hold it up. But Ryan Bates has been a favorite of Ryan Poles, and he's one of those interior linemen that can play that position. Coleman Shelton did very well with the Rams last year, which is surprising that he didn't receive a lot of attention in free agency. But this is a really strong situation where he's got $3 million salary, and that's a really good value, by the way, for the center position for a person of his caliber. Again, I told you before, one of the guys that we were looking at as we were hoping to get in was Lloyd Cushenberry, and Coleman Shelton grades out at 73 is the grade for Lloyd Cushenberry. 72 was the grade for Coleman Shelton, coming very close. So this guy's not, for $3 million, this guy is a welcome addition. And Shelton will be here for 2024. And he probably is gone after a year, by the way. We still need an offensive center. So just so you guys know. Ja'Tyre Carter, the Bears spent the 2022 season keeping him protected on the 53-man roster. There was hope he was going to really improve and become a key sub, but his chances were never really put together. So he's probably going to lose his spot, and he's probably going to be gone. So we'll see what happens there. But that's the way that it currently looks. Now, as far as this goes, that's the defensive side of the ball. No changes really on the defensive side of the ball. We seem to be this looks like Demarcus Walker. And look, the more I look at this, the more I think that there are pieces that are in place that I'm happy with. Demarcus Walker, I'm not happy with Demarcus Walker as our pass rusher on obvious passing downs. I hope that we can do something about that. But if we can't, then we're just going to be a great run stopping team and an average pass rushing team. And I hope that that becomes better. And also, by the way, Gervon Dexter, the more I look at Gervon Dexter, the more I'm excited about him as that defensive tackle, especially on the side of Montez Sweat, because here's the thing. He's going to command double teams. Montez Sweat in this offense or in this defensive scheme right here, Montez Sweat probably commands a double team a lot, and that means Gervon Dexter might be that guy that gets away and gets to the quarterback. So we might be seeing a breakout season from Gervon Dexter, and he continues to improve. So and impress. So this, again, is the offensive line overall. Again, Braxton Jones, Coleman Shelton, those are the ones that we're going to be looking for replacements for at some point pretty soon. And then we still need that slot receiver. Still no word on that. But that's where it comes to the draft right here. And finally, for the day, guys, I know I talked a lot today, but I'm passionate about what's going on with this quarterback situation. And, again, I think you guys, I hope you guys understand that Caleb Williams probably, it's going to be good for us to be supportive of him. But here's the draft. At number 1, I took Caleb Williams. And then I traded the number 9 down, and I got the number 14 and the number 45 selection off of that trading down. And I traded down, and I got Troy Fatanu, which I thought was going to be a great offensive tackle. And again, an upgrade. And by the way, if you notice here, I was almost predominantly on the offense for this to try to fix that offense once and for all. So Caleb Williams became my first pick, then followed by Troy Fatanu at the offensive tackle position. This is the guy to start to go after Braxton Jones if you're, in fact, looking for an upgrade there and you want to move on from Braxton Jones. Then I think that you've got somebody in Troy Fatanu. So then going down to number 45, Zach Frazier. You take Zach Frazier as the offensive center. Look, there's no way that I can get Jackson Powers, the Jackson Powers Johnson. So Zach Frazier ends up being that guy. And Lord Crimson says Fatanu is projected to be a guard. Well, then maybe that's the Nate Davis replacement that we were looking for, that we were just discussing anyway. So Troy Fatanu, Zach Frazier at the center position, second best overall center in this draft. Possibly an upgrade to Coleman Shelton, or at least somebody who's going to train under Coleman Shelton for a year before taking over the position in 2025. Then at number 86, Braden Fisk has some depth going into this defensive line, which is struggling for depth. And then at number 127, I took Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice, wide receiver from USC, to give Caleb Williams a little more familiarity in this system. So we'll see what happens here. Yeah, fuck that guy. It isn't a pro Bears channel. Okay. Yeah. Not a bad mock. Here's the thing. You never know what is going to happen here. You know what I mean? He's not going anywhere. Versus the pick at 9. I would love to see that, by the way. I'm not opposed to Jared Verse. In fact, I don't think that you're right in that, Tito, and I don't think that you're right about that, because I really like that idea, but I have a feeling that Ryan Poles is comfortable with DeMarcus Walker, and it looks to me like at one point he was looking at Dallas Turner, and if you're looking at Dallas Turner at your 9 position, he is better, arguably, than Jared Verse statistically in every fashion. So you don't reach down to the 15th best player, which is Jared Verse at number 9. Just because you need that guy. You want that guy. You want the best player available. And, that I don't think they're going to do that unless Dallas Turner is available. And also, if you've been listening to what Ryan Poles and what Maddie and Bleeves and what all these guys have actually been saying, not what we want them to say, but what they've actually been saying, they are focused entirely on the offense right now. I got a feeling that they think that defense is as set as it's going to be. and that, we're probably not going to see a whole lot of moves being made to increase the defense, which is why I waited until 86 to take any offensive player or defensive player, and that was Braden Fisk. And I always like Braden Fisk. I think he's a monster of a man at defensive tackle, and I really think that we need one more defensive tackle in that rotation. So I mean. And by the way, all of the best top tier tackles were gone by the time I got to that, or at least what I consider to be the best ones were already gone. Fashanu was gone. Joe Alt was gone. So that was why I traded down from 9, because that was my idea. This was the only other tackle that was going to be available at that level. That was the only other one. At pick 9, who do you want? You want an offensive lineman or a defensive player? Which one, dude? I would prefer to have. I mean, guys, if it's preference, then I want Marvin Harrison. I want to drop down, take Marvin Harrison at number 3. I still haven't changed my mind about what I want. I just know what the Bears are going to do at this point. They're going to take Caleb Williams at number 1. Nothing I can do about it. So I have to build everything based on that strategy to begin with. And then what the Bears are actually saying. And what they're actually saying is that we're looking to shore up the offense, and we should be taking the best available player. And in this context here, at number 9, Troy Fatanu was actually one of the best players available, along with I think it was a cornerback or a safety. And we're not taking a safety or a cornerback. So then I drafted down because I figured maybe I could pick up an offensive tackle in that position and an extra pick. And my extra pick got Troy Fatanu and Zach Frazier. And I got Zach Frazier as the number 2 overall center coming out of college. And I mean, it's not Jackson Powers Johnson, but it is somebody, and it's somebody that I think can be a contributor to this team. Then Braden Fisk and Brendan Rice. And I think Brendan Rice, you know what I mean? That's the guy that I think makes it easier for Caleb Williams to have his transition into this league. I think that he's that's the linchpin sort of guy that's going to make everything a little bit easier for Caleb Williams coming into the season. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you would, make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know you got plenty of different things that you could be doing today, like working or just kind of hanging out. If you're in crypto like me, this is what you do. You know what I mean? So, and if you're doing that, shout out to you for making it. And if you haven't already, make sure you got some Bitcoin in your wallet, because Jesus Christ, guys, you're going to miss out phenomenally on the investment opportunity of a lifetime if you do not. Anyway, that's my time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Steve Lotman, before we go, says drop from 9 to go after Jackson Powers Johnson. Well, I don't disagree with you in that context. So, and I don't have an argument for I don't have an argument for that. The problem is I don't know where Jackson Powers Johnson is going to go and what it is that I'm going to get right there, which is why at 14 I went with the tackle position, because Coleman Shelton, no matter what, Coleman Shelton's probably going to be the guy that plays. We went out and got that guy for a reason. We went out and got Ryan Bates for a reason. So I'm not sure that that's the play that the Bears are willing to make. I think they want somebody at that 9 position. I think I actually didn't do what the Bears wanted. You know what I mean? Like I think they would have they're going to take somebody at the 9 position, and they're going to trade down on 75, maybe. And then they're going to trade down on 122, maybe, if there's some kind of option or anything like that. But otherwise, And Antoine Shearer says, I'm not sold on Caleb, still have more holes to fill. And you're right. That is true. I mean, and the thing is, whether you're sold on Caleb or not, he rates out as a better quarterback than Justin Fields. He rates out as a better quarterback than anybody in the last bunch of years since Andrew Luck. So, even if, we can agree with it, he's done everything right so far, aside from, some macho dudes don't like the fact that he paints his nails. Some macho dudes don't like the fact that he has a pink phone. You know what I mean? Like there's pieces out there, but they're not real pieces. They're just like, I'm a dude and I don't like other dudes wearing pink, bro. You know what I mean? Stupid. So I'm not sure. I would like Justin Fields, but this is where we are. And yeah, we need one more wide receiver. That's why I took Brendan Rice. And I would like to see an elite wide receiver, but they were gone off the board too. Olu Fashanu, like we had 3 quarterbacks gone in that first part of the draft, and we had 2 offensive linemen gone, in the first part of that draft. And then we had Dunzy, Marvin Harrison, and Malik Neighbors all gone by that 9th pick, which is why, again, like the safety, I think, is it Tyler something or other, at the number 6 position, or at the number 9, that we had a safety, and we had, Troy Fatanu, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens here. And by the way, I think you should note, I think you should, in closing, I think it should be noted that Ryan Poles has specifically said in the last interview that he did that he's looking to rebuild draft stock and draft capital for 2025. The 2024 draft, he's going to do what he's going to do right here. Maybe we'll see something interesting. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll see him just take 4 picks and like, this is what we're going to do. LFG, baby, let's go. But I think that what he's looking at is restocking on 2025 draft picks. So I think you'll see Braxton Jones move mid-season. You'll probably see Matt Pryor kind of sub in for him. I think you'll see a couple trades and stuff like that by that mid-season area. And he'll probably take $10 million in to pull up somebody just in case of emergency or something like that. And by the way, one final piece that I do want to tell you, I don't know that this is going to work out, and I don't know that they're going to do it. And I know that some of you guys are not going to like it. But the best available edge rusher out there right now is, in fact, Yannick Ngakoue. And if Yannick Ngakoue does not find a team and wants to play in this league, he might have to take a veteran minimum contract, and he might end up back on the Bears. And look, that's not going to be the greatest pass rusher that we have. It's not going to be the greatest pass rusher in history, but the guy had 8 sacks until last season, every single season. So it's very possible that we see Yannick Ngakoue back in Chicago one more time to run it back. And that might be just that guy that subs with DeMarcus Walker, and at least we have a pass rusher instead of DeMarcus Walker. So that might be what happens. I don't know for sure, but I did see some stuff about it, and it looks like, it just so happens that there's no market for Yannick Ngakoue right now. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, have a good day. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out and leave a comment